Welcome to Love to See It, a podcast about men who went on reality TV instead of straight to therapy. Dave.
It's yet another classic season of Love is Blind, which means that there are at least a handful of men and a Dave that have issues that would be, I think, better litigated off screen. And yet, here we are.
If we didn't have under-therapized men, we wouldn't have reality dating shows.
You know what? That's such a good point, Claire. Like, I am sorry to the women who have to deal with them, but it gives us so much material.
They're just cannon fodder, like the sacrificing themselves in the name of drama. So we are here with these men, these troubled men, to recap episodes 10, 11, and 12 of season 8 of Love is Blind, which take us right up to the finale. We actually end with the first wedding day. So we're already into the weddings. Of course, they don't tell you who says yes or no until you get to the finale. But we're right up to it. We're right up to it.
Reminder to everyone that we are covering The Traitors still over on Rich Text. You can find those episodes at claireandemma.substack.com. And of course, we are also covering The Bachelor, Grant Ellis's season, on this feed. So go check out those episodes if you're behind.
Yes. So let's get into this batch of episodes. I think some of the themes of this season are really coming into focus with this batch of episodes. Protective sisters.
That's a generous term.
Well, some of them I feel are protective, and some of them I feel are probably unhinged. It's a
true.
spectrum.
It's an even mix. It is a spectrum. It's such a spectrum.
We've got the problem of reconciling God with gay rights.
And abortion rights.
But gay rights comes up in multiple of these relationships. I mean, these are kind of the broader themes that we're seeing explored. It's not really what I expected from the Minneapolis season in 2025.
No,
that's why you shouldn't stereotype.
It is so interesting to me. And I have seen a lot of commentary from other Minnesotans saying that the culture there is very private, which we definitely see from some of the families' reticence to be on camera. And so people were speculating that it was actually pretty hard for them to find people from the Minneapolis area who were willing to put themselves out there on a reality TV show.
Yeah. And then when they do put themselves out there on a reality TV show, their sister assumes everyone else there is
evil,
a tramp, and evil.
Just a slutty old reality TV star slutting all over the television.
I'm sure my wonderful brother has his reasons, but what about all those hags? Exactly. What's their excuse?
They're just trying to trap him, I assume.
So we dive back in to some of the daily life of the couples in Minnesota. And I would say the stars of this section are Dave and Lauren. I have so many pages of notes about Dave and Lauren.
Yeah, even though they break up in this batch of episodes and they are like not really in the last episode at all, I think. For me, this season and certainly this segment of the release is just about Dave. And Dave and Lauren specifically. Like, all of my thoughts are about Dave.
Yeah, I could spend hours. I could spend days. That's healthy, right?
Yeah, it's really healthy, right? When you think that much about a random person you don't know. But truly, let's get into it.
We left off with Dave saying that he wanted to go out with his friends and not introduce them to Lauren because he just didn't feel like being with her at that moment, and leaving Lauren to cry in their apartment. And we pick up the next morning, and Lauren is still crying and had a really shitty night. What do you know?
Turns out that Dave stayed at his apartment. This is like where we get the clip that was teased, where she says Dave texted her at 3 a.m., said he was staying at his apartment, and then his phone was turned off because her texts were now green. And he does come home for a chat, though. And I guess to like stave off the inevitable breakup.
Yeah, he doesn't know what he wants to do. Or like, you know what? No, he knows what he wants to do, but he doesn't want to be the one to do it.
No, he would like Lauren to end the relationship so he can be the victim.
Absolutely. And so he comes back and he's like, oh, so sorry. I fell asleep like all day and my phone died. And anyway, now it's afternoon and here I am. Let's catch up. And it's It's a really infuriating conversation because she clearly had a terrible night and was just like really worried about how they were going to resolve this. And Dave's response is that he had fun with his friends, but it was hard to have fun during his night of drinking and going to different bars with his friends.
Yeah.
Because he was worried about their relationship.
You know what? It is so hard for Dave.
It's so hard for him to have as much fun as he wants to while his girlfriend is at home crying.
Exactly. It's trying.
Yeah.
It's a trying time for him. He should be able to just go out and have fun with his friends without thinking about another human being. And that's why he should be single.
How dare you suggest that he's not ready to get married? He hasn't had sex for years.
No skin cells of another woman have touched that pristine body.
This man is dried and cured for marriage, and you dare to question whether he's ready?
I'm so
You
sorry.
bitch.
I should repent. I will repent to Dave's sister for my comments.
She will never speak to you, so you'll have to live with this guilt forever. So he tells her a little bit about his night. It turns out that while they were out at the bars, they ran into some pod people. And what's weird about this is that he clearly doesn't want to tell her this, but she has already heard about it from other pod people. He's like, oh, we went to like Nolo's or something. And she says, really? Where else did you say you were? And he's like, yeah, and we went to some other bars and we ran into some pod people.
But he did not say hello to Molly. And I was like, Dave, have you seen Love is Blind 6, Jeremy's season? I think you might have. I think enough time has passed that 6 would have come out by the time they were filming 8.
Yeah, he knows better than to meet Molly, hook up with Molly, have to talk about it at the reunion. So he's like, I decided I just didn't even want to talk to her.
Also,
so
we learned later that Molly had no interest in talking to him either. So
yeah,
he didn't have much of a choice.
And she mentions that she saw her parents and that they were concerned about the situation and worried about her. And he says, well, I'm now nervous to meet them because I don't know how to answer their inevitable questions about why I'm being such an asshole to you about this whole situation.
Again, I think we should just have more empathy for Dave.
The fact that he's
having
like,
a hard time.
I'm stressed about how to explain my behavior in a way that makes any sense should be like a little ding ding alarm for him.
No. That's Lauren's fault. That's Lauren's fault, Claire. She did this to him by having sex with another person before she met him.
But Lauren's like, let's workshop. Like, I'm here to help you explain your shit to my parents.
She's trying so hard.
She like hands him this very diplomatic answer about how they both just want to be so sure before they commit. Like, she is literally baby birding him this whole relationship.
And he can't even do it.
He can't even do it. And he's so aggrieved the whole time. He hates you, Lauren. Leave this man. So frustrating.
He treats her so badly at every turn. It's actually stunning.
Even when they're supposedly having kind of a good time.
Well, exactly. He's
seem
always saying something low-grade insulting about her and her worth and her place in his life. Like, it's wild to watch.
He's like avoiding eye contact. His body language is sort of put off, like cold. Like, he just never really seems like he is connected to her or cares about her.
And it is bizarre because as you've pointed out, like in this conversation, they're talking about how they agree and they want to be together and they want to move forward. But all of the signals he's giving are, I literally hate you. And it's actually charity work for me to even be here.
Charity work. Dave, let me tell you something about charity work. Lauren is putting in overtime.
Literal
right now.
Give this woman the Nobel Prize.
So they do meet Lauren's mom now that they're in town. We learn that her dad really doesn't want to be on camera, but he's happy to meet Dave off camera. You won't believe it, but Dave will later find a way to be aggrieved by that.
Correct.
So Lauren's mom, like Lauren has, offers to meet Dave's family off camera. She's like, do they want to meet me? Like, I'm happy to do it however they're comfortable. Just for you guys, I'm happy to do that. And Dave starts being like, oh yeah, my family is so great. They're so amazing. Meet you? I don't know. My dad he golfs. He's a big warm weather guy. So like he's busy. I don't even know if he's going to make it to like the wedding.
It is
And
bizarre. You can see Lauren's mom. She's trying so hard to show up for her daughter. And yet she's just like clocking every weird comment that Dave makes.
and she says like very empathetically like, "Well, does that bother you? Like are you okay with that he might miss the wedding?" And he's like, "Oh, no, he'll do anything for me." This is like the Dave two-step. He's always like, "My family won't do this for me." What do you mean they won't do this for me? They're amazing. They would do anything
They're
for
actually
me.
perfect. And so the only conclusion one can draw is that Dave doesn't care to introduce anyone to Lauren or to make Lauren a part of his
Right.
life.
There are two conclusions you can draw. He doesn't want you to draw either of them, but it's
Right.
impossible. One is he actually has huge family issues. They aren't supportive. They don't prioritize
And they like
him.
bully him.
Right, and he takes it. The other is that he doesn't care that much about Lauren and has not prioritized getting them to show up for their relationship in any way. He wants neither, like, he wants you to think that his family is super amazing, would do anything for him, and also that he has no part in convincing them that Lauren is worth meeting. It can't be both. Like there's one issue going on here.
Right. And by the end of this drop, I'm sort of inclined to believe that like the bigger issue is his family.
I do think that his family is the fact that he's like, I don't know if my dad could make it to the wedding because he loves to golf. Like, where does that joke even come from if there's not a kernel of truth to it?
Exactly. It's deeply uncomfortable.
And of course you want to believe your family would do anything for you, but if you can't get your dad to meet your fiance before the wedding because he's too busy golfing, then like maybe he wouldn't do anything for you.
Right. Maybe his priorities are out of whack, or maybe like your family's judgments of your behavior are creating bad situations for you and your romantic partners. But Dave is just like not in a place to consider this. So
Yeah.
instead he's like, well, I'm just going to throw Lauren under the bus and then like feel sorry for myself about it after.
Yeah. He also defends his sister to Lauren's mom as well, because she's asking about his sister and his friend's reservations. And he says, "Oh, well, my sister was just so scared that I'd meet someone who was there for the wrong reasons or who was making me look bad," which I thought was really telling. Like Dave's sister was worried that he would look like the villain in the relationship.
Which he does, all on his own.
I'm sure it was obviously going to be the fault of whatever random reality TV woman he met.
Well, it's not going to be Dave's fault. Dave is perfect. Dave is so perfect that me as his sister might want him for myself.
I mean, he would love that. He's like, "She just didn't want me to meet someone like that. So it came from a lovable place," which I thought was a really telling slip, because you would normally say that it came from a loving place. But we all know that Dave thinks everything his sister does is lovable. And her mom is like, "Does she know how boring Lauren is?" And they laugh and laugh. This resolves nothing. Dave knows how amazing Lauren is and how she's not that kind of girl, and yet he does nothing. But Lauren's mom really tries. She's like being so gentle, so understanding. She's talking him through these issues, and she tries to give him some sort of encouragement to stand up to his friends a little bit. She's like, maybe they should realize that this isn't about them and that, you can make your own decisions. She says there's more shit going on in the world right now to worry about than this. And I have to assume that Lauren's mom was really worried about the upcoming election.
I honestly, that was my thought.
And she's like, "I really think that they should get a chance to get to know Lauren. Like, she's so wonderful. They haven't even met her. They should have a chance to get to know her." And Dave is like, "Absolutely, completely agree, but this will change nothing."
He's like, I do agree in theory. Will I give them a chance to meet Lauren? Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. He also tells Lauren's mom that he's grown more in the last month than in 32 years.
Again, Dave, go to therapy. Go straight to therapy. This is the problem.
My God, what was he like before? Like,
it's not good. It's time for the breakup talk to happen. during a lighthearted game of bowling, or
I will
after a
say-
lighthearted game of bowling.
It's supposed to be a lighthearted game of bowling, but it seems so miserable.
It is like freighted with misery. Like the
So how is
tension is
he-
palpable.
He's even annoying when they're bowling together. Like their vibe is so strained, and she's clearly trying so hard to keep things fun and friendly, and he's not even like paying attention to her when
Well,
she's
that's
bowling.
kind of his vibe throughout their entire relationship.
Right. It's like she's always like, "Oh, look." And he's like, "What? Were you bowling? I was looking at something else." "Oh, you bowled a strike, your first strike. I was looking at something else." Cool,
So,
though. Good job.
so after they bowl, they sit down and they talk about the upcoming Pod Squad mixer, which I guess is taking place the next day. And Lauren's like, I'm a little stressed because other people have like also been hearing things and they're going to have questions. And I don't want to deal with outside opinions. And Dave is like, well, we're going to have to. Have you heard about my sister? my perfect sister. And the way that he talks about her, it truly sounds like he has pledged his romantic life to her as like a token.
Yeah. I mean, this was a really telling, like a very revealing conversation. We've heard a lot about his sister, but we hadn't heard some of this before. He
This is
basically
wild.
admits to her that his sister is upset that he is still with Lauren and feels like he is sort of stringing her, the sister, along with promises to end things. And yet they're still together. I was like, I'm sorry, is she your mistress? And she's like, why are you still with her? I thought you told me you weren't happy.
I'm
I thought
just
we were
gonna
going to have a
say-
baby together. Like,
As an older sister, I do not relate to this dynamic. I have never like felt ownership over my younger brother's romantic life. I've never felt that he like owes me some control over it. Like this is a fucking bizarre dynamic.
it's so weird. I've never in my life even offered an opinion to my brothers on any of their partners other than
not
she
appropriate.
seems great. Here's something I like about her.
Right. And like, sure, if your sibling is in a relationship that seems really damaging to them, then of course you are going to like step in as a family member. If they are just like dating someone they say they like, why are you involving yourself? And you haven't met them.
And even if you have some sort of really solid basis for real concern, like I have witnessed your dynamic and I think it's abusive, for example, like even if you have that solid basis, the framing of like, I feel like you're leading me on with these promises
Right.
to not be together
Making it like a
anymore,
personal thing, like to me as the sister. It's just
it's off.
It's very off. I also think it's a wild thing for him to admit on this show what he says next, which is that he like promised his sister that he would go on the show and not get engaged. Or if he did get engaged, he wouldn't, quote, keep it going. Like, talk about for the wrong reasons. Like, this is essentially what Trevor did without it, like, minus
Right.
the girlfriend. But, like, if you go on a reality dating show with zero intention of seeing it through, that is not fair to everyone else who's participating in the show.
Like she has opened herself up in every way to him. He's met her family and friends. She has been like sleeping in the bed with him when he's willing to. Like she has been moving things around in her life to accommodate a future together. And he's admitting right now that he never intended to follow through on any of that. And he's been accusing her of not being ready for
Right.
marriage because she's such a slut to deflect from that. It is
is-
absolutely disgusting.
It's disgusting. It is disgusting behavior. It is unhinged behavior. I mean, we are taping this ahead of the public seeing these episodes, so I'll be interested to track the response. I hope it's in line with
He's going to
what
be
we
America's
think.
sweetheart.
Oh, Lord. And he also, oh my gosh, some of the quotes we had to write down that he says about his sister. He says, "She just has such high expectations of me because she thinks I'm capable of so much," which I guess means he can't sully himself by being on this reality dating show because of his sister's expectations. And also, not just that, but he offended his sister because he didn't share enough of his romantic life with her and allow her to set him up with her friends first.
The way that he says this is so funny. He's like, she's really hurt. And like the way that she told me it was like, well, I didn't know that you were struggling with dating. You never talked to me about that. You didn't give me like the opportunity to set you up with people. And you know, she's right. Like I
she's
didn't
so
do
right.
That
Was such a good point. Like, Dave, no.
She doesn't have like an option on your dating life where she gets to refuse to interfere before you're allowed to date someone else, or she gets to try her hand first and fail before you get to date someone else. You are your own person. Your sister,
I'm sorry,
is over there. She's not in charge of your love life.
You are in your 30s, sir. You're actually a full human and you make your decisions, and you don't break up with a person that you say you love because your sister wants to try her hand at setting you up. I mean, this is just
even the fact that he feels even any sense of like guilt or
it is disturbing. It's disturbing that he
any
feels
sort of
anything.
sense that he had some sort of obligation to let her set him up, as if it's something that's owed to her.
Right. No. The problem here is not
like that before.
That like his sister believes that he could be happier. The problem is that like she is owed these things from him. It is so bizarre. I was like, you need to go to therapy for a codependent relationship with your sister. This is creeping me out.
I wish that I were present for some of these conversations, because I'm like, maybe his sister sounds like she has major issues, but did she really say this? Or did she say something more like, I just feel sad because like I didn't know you were having such a hard time and I wish that you had let me help, you know.
Right.
You're like, how you feel like it's been so hard to date and I wish I'd been there for you.
How
and
much
he's
of
making
this is
it
Dave's
sound
like weird interpretation of what she
right.
said. I mean, we don't know, but we can only go off of what he's saying.
Right. And he's really making it sound like she was like, I had right of first refusal on your dating life and you didn't even present it to me before you went on this show.
And
that's fucked up.
Oh, Lauren, though, is still trying so hard. She's like, look, our relationship's going to be better when your friends and your sister actually meet me. And Dave is like, well, I don't know, because I talked to your dad and that was a lot for me to handle. I was victimized by your father.
This was such a turn. I did not see this coming at the time. But the minute that he starts meeting her family, he is both the victim of Lauren making it hard to meet her family and also the victim of Lauren making it hard for Lauren to meet his family. And it's all just so hard for him.
It's so hard for him. And Lauren kind of says, look, it's a lot for me to handle that your sister doesn't want to meet me. And Dave is like, no, how dare you? She does want to meet you. But my family, they don't meet just anybody. This was so cruel. Like,
I was like speechless. I was like,
too.
I can't believe you would say that to your fiance.
It is a disgusting thing, frankly, to say to anyone. It is saying that my family meets people of worth and you have no worth. And that is how they feel and that is how I feel. And I think at this point, Lauren is like, okay, this is shifting into breakup territory, because she says, if you don't see it with me, like, I need to know, and it's a waste of my time.
Like, he keeps leading her along with like, no, you're so wonderful. I'm telling them how great you are. It's not going well, but I'm really telling them how great you are. And then he drops this line that indicates that the real issue is that she is not a worthwhile enough person or a significant enough person to him for them to prioritize meeting.
It is
In which
disgusting.
case, that invalidates all the other shit that he's been telling
It's
her.
like, what are we doing at all at this point? Nothing.
I can't get over the fact that he actually said that to her. And like, he thinks that she, oh my God, I'm sorry. Just, he's breaking my brain. But to sit there and be like, it's so hard for me that your dad asked me some tough questions about how I'm handling myself. But it's okay that my sister and my family won't meet you. It's just because I think you're less than nothing.
I don't know.
So do I.
If I told my parents even one fraction that like my partner was saying even one fraction of the shit that Dave is saying on camera to Lauren, yeah, they might have some tough questions for that partner.
It's normal and good for his friends and family to ice her out because they heard a rumor about her. That's them protecting him, which is good. But if her friends and family have any questions about how he's like leaving her crying all the time because he can't resolve this issue and can't even introduce her to the family and friends so that they can talk it through directly, then they should be putting that on him. How dare they turn that around on him? That's really hard for him. Why would they do that? That's fucked up. Like, he really sees it that way, that like,
I know
his family should protect him and that's virtuous. But when her family protects her, that's them attacking him and being like so mean.
Correct. Even though her family and friends have been like very gentle with him from what we've seen.
Right.
So,
and then when she's like, it's hard for me that they won't meet me, he's like, well, that's just because you're worthless. So why are you offended by that? What is wrong with you?
This man has serious fucking issues. So to actually break up, they have to move to a second location, like an empty art house movie theater, so they can like sit in the front row and
absolutely baffled by this. They're like at a bowling alley, like having their snacks, and they're like, we obviously can't break up here. Let's go to a movie theater and sit in the red.
I was like,
chairs.
Is this? I don't know.
I don't know.
Dave, again, goes back to how hard it was for him to get so many text messages about how Lauren, quote, had a boyfriend.
And he kind of starts making a more accusatory case towards her than we have seen so far. Like, he's been more like, I don't know, I wish I could believe you, but I don't know. And here he's framing it sort of as like her being deceitful and sneaky. Yes. He's like, you probably just didn't expect to meet someone who had such a close connection to this guy. Like, this guy,
because they were like frat bros with him,
right? His friends were in his
the bonds of brotherhood. You know that.
I'm like, oh yeah, frat bro gossip. I would definitely
trust that over this woman who is sobbing every night.
Whenever frat bros say some shit about a woman and what a slut she is, I immediately believe that, because what incentive do they have to lie? Like, please.
Oh God, I can't. This is breaking my brain.
And he says that the guy is still texting her to hang out, so it's very hard to move on from it. And Lauren says that he hasn't since like the week before, when they had just gotten back from Honduras, and she didn't respond, and that's why he kept texting. And he's like, well, why was he doing that? And she's like, well, clearly he had a different interpretation of our time together. And Dave is like, well, my friends wouldn't lie to me. And she's like, I wouldn't either.
Also, like, no one's saying your friends are lying.
Believe. Well,
she's suggesting that your friends are incorrect about what happened because they weren't there and she was.
He has no like theory of mind, I feel. Like, does he understand that his friends were not physically there for any of the events in question?
No, because Lauren's a lying slut and his friends are his bros.
Like, they were like, either they're lying or she's lying, or I'm going to throw this out there, this guy
who clearly is desperate to be a part of the storyline.
At some point she mentions like, oh, you had said you didn't think that highly of this person. So this is already a person whose character is somewhat in question. Very easy for him to take the relationship that she admits did exist and to big it up into something that it wasn't.
Right. Okay.
So that he can get involved.
And then his friends he decided he wanted to still hook up with her. And
right.
She isn't interested.
And his friends agree with him. They take him at his word. And believing that, they do not lie to Dave, but they say exactly what they believe is true to Dave.
Right.
but they are wrong. Like, does he understand that that is like within the realm of possibility? Because he treats it as her accusing his friends of lying when she says they weren't there, but I was, and I know that that did not happen.
Right. And first of all, if she thought they were just like lying liars, why would she have repeatedly said, I really want to meet them and talk to them in person, because they are hearing things from this guy who is not representing the relationship truthfully.
They have heard from one person in the relationship in question. Why can't they hear from her as well? Maybe they would find her persuasive. Maybe they would realize there was some sort of miscommunication or misunderstanding. Instead, they've been kept apart. Dave doesn't want them to meet. He's just interested in sitting back and being like, well, my friends wouldn't lie, so you must be lying probably. And until I move past that,
it's crazy. It's
we
insane.
Can't be together.
It's insane.
So this transitions into Dave's new gripe about her parents, which he gets really heated about, and I thought it was really gross.
I agree.
He's like, when I met your dad, he was so suspicious that I'm not ready for marriage, and I was just there to see what happened.
Dude, clearly you are, and you've already just admitted that you showed up intending to lead someone on and not get engaged to them.
And
like...
But what he says is basically, I can't believe that your dad questioned whether I'm ready for marriage.
Because you're a slut.
Do they even know that you are fucking other guys? Do they know that? Because it kind of seems like they didn't. They thought that I was the one who wasn't ready for marriage. Did they know their daughter was sleeping with someone?
Slutty slut?
What the fuck is wrong with you, man? Like, what is your deal?
I don't know.
Seriously.
Maybe her parents don't believe that like having sex with someone that you don't intend to marry disqualifies you from marital readiness in the future.
It
like,
literally doesn't.
It literally doesn't. Maybe they just are not. I can't even speak. I can't even speak in complete sentences. I'm apoplectic over this.
Here's something that does disqualify you from marital readiness is going into the relationship, being determined not to get engaged or married, having actually made promises to a family member about that, and prioritizing that promise over your relationship with your partner. You can't get married if you're still listening to your sister and what your sister wants for your romantic future over your partner. Right. You're not ready.
If I was her dad, I would also be saying, I don't know if you're ready for this. You seem to have serious reservations. You seem to be sticking around, but not really in it.
Right. You literally admitted on camera that you just went on to go through the process and not get engaged and definitely not married. And you're offended that your fiance's father is like, it seems like you're just here to see what happens. You literally said that on camera. Get out of here. Literally go. Leave
out of
my
here.
sight.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
And then
this man is my enemy.
Lauren is like, well, yeah, I don't think that you're ready to be a teammate in a marriage, or this would have been a minuscule issue. We would have worked through it.
Yes, Lauren, finally.
And Dave is like, no, you're not going to turn it around and put that on me. You sound like your dad right now.
Jesus Christ, get out of here. The fact that he has such reverence for his family and speaks about her family with such disdain, it is disgusting.
There's no respect for her and her relationships with her family here.
Zero.
And yet he demands such understanding and deference to his family, even while they are treating Lauren like garbage off the street.
It's horrifying.
He really speaks in very harsh terms about her dad. He's like, it was really fucked up that she questioned my family for not wanting to meet with you when he didn't even want to meet me on camera. What the fuck was that? I'm like, well, he met you. He literally
offered
met
to
you.
meet, everyone offered to meet your family off camera. You wouldn't allow it. You wouldn't even put her on a FaceTime. So what are you talking about? You met her father.
He's like, your dad met me on his terms, and now it's being turned on my friends and family for not wanting to be involved. Why? They're not changing their minds. Okay, they're not changing their minds, but like he literally met you for his daughter. Your family is refusing to do it under any circumstances. Why is that her family being more controlling, more withholding? Everything that her family does he sees every flaw that actually his family is displaying. He's so protective of them, and I understand that, but then to go at her family like that when they're trying so hard to show up for her.
Exactly. Like you can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
And he tries to in every regard in all of these interactions.
He's the king of having it both ways. He wants everything both ways. Down to the breakup, he will continue to talk about it as if he gets to have it both ways on everything that happens.
Yeah, he's the victim because he did make the decision, but he didn't want to. He wanted
right.
her to do it.
Oh my God. When we got to that, I was like, I can't believe this man. I still can't believe this man. He still surprises me after all these years.
He does ultimately call it, though. Finally.
Yeah.
Blessedly, because she needs to get the fuck out of this relationship. And then he acts like such a sad sack.
Oh my God. What was he doing? He goes out to give his confessional and he's like, wow, I really love Lauren and I feel like I let her down because my ego wouldn't let me get over the fact that she was with another guy before.
Oh, so you admit that the issue was the fact that you wanted her to be celibate before dating you.
Right. Like the way that he sits in those conversations with her and is so combative and critical, unrelenting, defensive, and then he leaves and kind of completely accurately describes what an asshole he was in the situation.
Know.
Why can you say that shit to her?
Yeah, like, I'm sorry. I wish I was stronger, but like my ego won't let me get over this. Say that to her. Don't say, what the fuck is wrong with your dad? You're worth nothing. Like it is so wild. And we see this yet again at the pod mixer. I mean, I was like, this man has some like serious fucking issues. He should not, he needs to be in a lot of therapy. And we also learn from Lauren in her post-breakup confessional that she wrote a heartfelt letter to Dave's sister, like expressing her love for Dave, explaining the situation, saying how much she wants to meet her. Dave went to see his sister and just didn't even give her the letter. Like, why?
Why?
It's bizarre. It's very bizarre behavior.
Like, this really plays into the thing that he sort of let slip during this final conversation, which is that he's been kind of promising his sister that this doesn't mean anything. And he doesn't actually want to go to his sister and be like, things have really changed. I didn't mean for things to get serious, but Lauren is so special. They've changed. I'm taking this seriously.
Like, it really feels like
to give her the letter.
It feels like he didn't even give his sister the opportunity to show up for him.
That is what it makes it seem like.
It's the whole thing is like very bizarre and dark. And I'm so happy that Lauren is getting the fuck away from this man.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on for a little while. Talk about some of the other couples. Daniel and Taylor just have a great time. They're just like playing mini golf and making wedding plans. That's what we see from them in this section.
Every scene between them is like, we have one line of notes that's like, they are happy. They do happy things together and laugh. Good for them.
Good for them. I love them. I think they'll get married. Devin and Virginia. They meet up with Virginia's mom, which I think goes pretty well. Her mom seems really sweet.
Yeah, and she's very like even-handed, like I'm going to sort of do some premarital counseling almost in her approach. Yeah. She's like, let's talk about what commitment means to both of you and like how are you going to work through this issue or that issue. And she and Virginia seem like they have a really sweet relationship and it just goes well. She likes Devin.
It goes great. Very sweet. So afterwards, we see the two of them in bed and Virginia's like, I think that went well. They're sort of having like a post-meet the parents post-mortem. But the conversation takes a turn when Virginia brings up politics.
Even the way that she brings it up is so telling to me of their dynamic, which is that she keeps being like, anything else that you want to talk about before we get married? Anything that might cause conflict? And he's like, no. Doesn't even seem to be thinking that hard about it. It's like, nope. And she's like, what about politics?
I know, she's like, ha ha ha. She's like giggling uncomfortably the whole time.
Like she did not want to be the one to bring it up, I don't think. But she has realized that they've gone this far without really talking about it. And
like,
she's like,
holy
it has
shit. they didn't talk about this in the pods, that is crazy to me. Because it seems like Virginia has some pretty strong feelings, but she doesn't want to express them in a super strong way that might be alienating.
Yeah, I also wondered if, because later in this conversation, she makes the comment that there aren't many Black Republicans. And I wonder if the fact that they had talked about their shared background enough made her feel confident that they were aligned politically.
Yeah.
And now she's
like, wait, she's like, needed to double check this.
Yeah, I'm going to double check. I'm going to get the details on this. And what do you know? She found someone who like may not be a Black Republican, but he's really acting like he's a Black Republican and he doesn't want her to find out.
Yeah. We have a lot of, this happens with Ben too, where it's like,
yes,
it's like, oh, I just don't have that many strong opinions about politics. Oh, you think that thing? Huh. I guess I agree.
Girl,
but you sense that there are some real question marks there.
Yeah, there's a shared vibe of just like becoming sort of still and calm.
Yes.
And not giving much away.
Ben and Devin share this. Also, they both come from very religious families. And I'd say that Devin, even more than Ben actually, is like embedded with his family's view of religion. Like Devin is extremely aligned with his family's view of religiosity, whereas it seems that Ben has gone through a small bit of like thinking and questioning on his own. I don't feel that Devin really has, because Virginia brings up politics and Devin says, you know, I'm just not super big into politics and don't, quote, have a strong side on it. All of politics. He's like, do you? And Virginia's like, well, you know, the system is very flawed, but I vote Democrat and I think it's really important to vote.
And Devin sort of seems thrown by this, but he doesn't want to come out in opposition. He's doing that sort of still, no sudden movements response and says, well, do you think that you vote aligned with your faith? And she says, yes, I do, but my faith doesn't lead me towards those conservative values. It might, it can lead you in other directions. And I do believe in like abortion rights and gay rights. And she's sort of like giggling nervously
like,
as she says it.
I think people should be allowed to have abortions and gay people should have rights.
Like part of this is, I think, her personality and how she handles like serious conversations in this context. But I do think she's very much reacting to the fact that Devin is not responding in at all the way that she expected.
I agree. I think she is suddenly having this feeling of like, wait, am I in a relationship with a Black Republican?
Yeah, all this time I
like,
didn't realize
I was
a
Black MAGA. Like
I was about to marry someone who might not believe in abortion rights and like
or gay rights. That's very concerning to me. And she sort of says, she's like, it's a really interesting, that's one word for it, time to live in the United States because, I thought people were going to be able to have abortions. Didn't know we had to go back and debate that one again. And she just keeps waiting for him to be like, yeah, I agree.
Right. And instead he is like stoic, staring straight ahead, not really at her so much, just kind of taking this in a way that would have every alarm bell going off.
Oh my God. I would run.
For me.
Like if this was a date, I would be automatically done.
This seems to me like a guy who does not believe in abortion rights and gay rights so much, but knows that if he says that right now, it's going to blow up the relationship, or it might. And he's like quickly in his head being like, can I live with this? Will this be okay if we differ on this?
I guess like that's fine. He says he goes back and forth on abortion. And he's like, women should be able to decide what to do with their bodies, but the men should have equal say. So I guess he thinks like women should only be able to get abortions if a man says they can.
I was like sort of confused, but I don't know if Devin really knows what he thinks, because then she's like, well, yeah, I think that that's like the ethical thing to do if you're with someone is to
like
talk
consult
about
a partner.
But ultimately, I think women need to have the right to make choices about their bodies. And he's like, yeah,
Yeah.
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 So like
Oh,
maybe
okay.
he
I
just
agree with
thinks that
that.
it's like it should be legal, but or maybe what he's trying to convey is that it should be legal, but he really thinks it's that women should talk to their partners about it
Yeah, I think that
first.
like his concern is like, what if my partner killed our baby without telling me? Like that is what's going through his brain. And like, look, there are people who feel uncomfortable with abortion on a personal level, but do not use those feelings of discomfort to take away fundamental rights from other people. And
Yeah.
maybe that is where Devin falls. I also think that he just like hasn't thought about this a
No,
lot.
I do think he hasn't thought about it a lot. And he's like kind of fine maybe with her voting to protect abortion rights. But
Yes.
he certainly is not going to prioritize that.
I sort of suspect Devin doesn't vote very often.
The way he
That's the
makes it sound
vibes.
is like it depends on the candidate. Like he doesn't talk about politics like he's
Yeah.
a big voter, but he does say that his whole family votes Republican because of their religious beliefs. And she's like, my family does not vote that way. She's like, so would we vote the same way?
Yeah,
And
she's like, well, what would we take away from this conversation? Well, when we're going to the polls, are we voting the same or differently? And Devin is like, well, would it be a problem if we did vote differently? Like he doesn't answer the question.
No, every signal that he's giving is that he votes Republican. He is not really that interested in protecting abortion rights or gay rights.
But he's fine with her doing it.
He's fine with her doing it, and he just wants her to leave it alone. And I don't think that that's how Virginia sees things. But these men, they kind of like Ben and Devin, they kind of almost roll over and play dead in these conversations.
Yeah.
They're like, what if I don't really say what I think? What if I don't really say what I vote for? Will she sniff around for a while and then leave me alone? And that's kind of what happens. And it's really infuriating.
Yeah,
But I mean,
most she says is, I think it would be kind of alarming if you were way on the other end of the spectrum. And
Yeah.
he agrees.
I can't believe they didn't talk about this before. I do
That
think
is-
that she maybe assumed that they were aligned because of other things they had in common. And I really felt for her to be this
Me
close
too.
to the wedding.
And I think that's why she doesn't push this all the way, because she's like alarmed that this is coming up so soon. It did make me think that she's going to say no, though, at the altar, or that he is.
It does throw a new wrench in things. Also, during this conversation, he asks how she feels about the physical aspect of their relationship. And she says, I feel good. It keeps getting stronger.
There's no heat between them.
He's like, do you like kissing me? And she nods. She nods.
It's so tepid. I don't think these two should be
the passion is radiating through the screen. I was getting hot and bothered with that nod. I enjoy hugging you. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. It's good. It's fine.
Like, oh, but you have your whole life to be tepid about each other. It's
know.
a little early for that, to be honest. So let's catch up with Joey and Monica. They make nice with Monica's sister, Nicole, by having like a photo shoot with her. She's a professional photographer and it's very cute. Like she gets some great shots. And Monica says that she's talked to Nicole off camera several times and they've kind of made nice. They've repaired the breach over Nicole not liking Joey. And so during the photo shoot, Nicole apologizes to Joey and is like, you didn't do anything wrong. And it seems like that is kind of smoothed over at this point.
Yeah.
Nicole is like, I came in very
hot.
confused and nervous about you. And like, I came in hot and you actually seem like very well matched and I'm happy for you.
So great. Let's move on to Ben and Sara. Ben remains confused about why there is a woman crying over him on TikTok.
Oh, yeah. We left it there.
But they don't really get that far into it because, as we have said, and it's still true as of now, no specific allegations have been made. And so it's just a little bit hard to litigate. And Ben basically indicates like, my only real concern about the video is how it's affecting my relationship with you.
Yeah. And she clearly doesn't really know how to proceed without more information.
It's tough.
So she says, I'm not going to discredit this woman, but that was years ago. I don't know exactly what happened. The Ben I know now is wonderful and I care about him. So let's move forward. And then it doesn't really come up again, except for some sort of comments about outside noise affecting their relationship.
Yeah. I mean, because no more information comes out.
Right. So Ben meets Sarah's sister, Lisa, and her partner, Kelsey.
I love them.
And we know that Sara adores her sister, and she seems to really put their relationship on a pedestal as well. And she's sort of bringing
She
them
seems
Ben
very, very close to Kelsey also. You can tell that Kelsey is
Yeah.
fully a part of the family because she really speaks up a lot during this meeting and is very forceful. And it seems like they have the kind of relationship where she can push Sara.
Yeah, they seem extremely close. And Sara wants someone like Kelsey, right?
Yeah.
She's like, I want that kind of partner that my sister has. I want that relationship. And she's bringing Ben as like her potential partner for them to like genuinely vet. She wants their approval. And she's like, honestly, I'm not sure she presented Ben in the light that was most, it was honest.
It was honest.
But I don't know if it was the most likely to get that approval.
No.
She explains the whole saga of how she wasn't sure if he'd be accepting of Lisa's sexuality, but then he reassured her that he's like going to be very accepting of it.
You're like, if that was me, I wouldn't be like, oh, well, thank God he's not going to like do a hate crime. Like,
I know you could see Lisa and Kelsey looking sort of like,
we thought that was baseline.
right. Like I really felt for them. And I felt like Sara she clearly cares so much about her sister. And yet this seemed sort of oblivious. Like, I can't imagine taking my partner to
That probably shouldn't be
one
like
of
your
my
opening
siblings.
anecdote.
Right. I take my new partner to my sibling who is queer. And I'm just like, I thought that he wasn't going to accept the way you are. But he really reassured me that he will. And his church isn't even that anti-gay. Like, I can't imagine getting a good response. Like, Sara.
Yeah, they are trepidatious
Because
Ben.
I think what she wants is for them to, this is the thing that she's worried about, that she's maybe letting her sister down and Kelsey down by dating someone who isn't as evolved on these issues. And she kind of wants, I think, them to be like, well, that's great. Like,
Good job.
I'm so
A for
glad.
effort. I'm so glad you're moving away from your like the anti-LGBTQ stance of your childhood or whatever.
Right.
It's just like that's not really their responsibility.
Right. She wants the head pat. And like, from their perspective, I don't see why I would be wanting to give a head pat in that moment. I would be thinking, oh, I sort of thought my best friend, little sister, would date someone who didn't need to have this long, tormented conversation about whether my sexuality was acceptable.
Exactly.
So the vibe is not good.
No, the vibe is off. And Ben is trying. Ben is trying. Sara is trying. But like, it's off. And Kelsey calls out that she is super frustrated when churches use this like language of quote unquote acceptance surrounding LGBTQ issues. She's basically like, why would I give a church a gold star for quote unquote accepting me and my sexuality when like that's God's word. I was made in God's image.
Right. And she's like, I have to accept you every day.
Every
So like,
goddamn day.
why is it
Yeah.
about me being accepted? I mean, she was talking about church because Sara was talking about Ben's church and finding a church that's really accepting. I think it's also a little bit about Ben. That's like, why am I so impressed by acceptance? And the dynamic here was really telling to me also that Sara clearly feels so like mortified to be corrected.
Sarah's like, wow, I clearly used language that was incorrect. What words should I use? How like
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Kelsey is like, you're not wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. I'm talking about the churches. But I think that where the disconnect maybe really is here is that Sara is looking for that approval that he's accepting enough. And Kelsey and Lisa don't want to even be having to have this conversation.
Right. They're like, that's baseline. That's not even something that should be discussed.
Yeah. And it's hard to watch because Sara clearly loves them so much and she's putting them in an awkward position. And I don't think that that's what she wants to do.
No.
But she should have just honestly fucking dumped Ben in the pods. When this became an issue at all.
Or frankly, I don't know. Or not put this on them.
At the very least.
Right? Like,
yeah. I do think she should have dumped Ben in the pods because,
again,
when
I
these
agree.
things come up.
I agree. I don't think that they're a match. I don't think that I don't think they're a match. But
and we live in politically troubled times, and I still find that there are times when you look at your partner and you're like, we are responding to these times differently in certain ways.
If you don't have a base of shared values about these things
that is really strong,
that is really strong, like, you are going to struggle.
Yeah.
And it's clear that Ben, like Devin, just sort of wants politics to be like a tertiary thing that they nod at occasionally.
Right. Oh, also a really funny moment comes up when Ben and Sara say that they both identify as fiscally conservative and socially liberal.
I was like, sob.
Did you see Kelsey's reaction?
Yeah, she was like,
she like whips her head around at Sara.
Like, you do?
She's like, you identify as fiscally conservative and socially liberal.
And Sarah's like, yes, which is, but it also seems sort of like questionable because she's like, well, do you understand that some people who say they identify that way probably vote in very different ways than you do, Sara, which affects your rights?
Yeah, because she talks about how there are experiences that women have that Ben will never have that will maybe affect the rights that she wants to vote to protect. And the same for Lisa and Kelsey. They have, situations that they need to think about with their votes that Sara and Ben don't. And that needs to be all taken into account when you're thinking about whether you're going to be aligned with your partner on voting to protect everyone's rights in the relationship. And
I was like, oh God, guys, can we just finally fiscally conservative, socially liberal isn't a thing.
But this is also the thing that bugs me a little bit about Sarah's approach to this, which is that I do think that she thinks it can be compartmentalized a little bit. Like, if you're fiscally conservative and socially liberal, then I don't think that you really understand how those issues are knit together.
Right. That like money and the way that we dole out money and like government funding. I mean, look at what's happening right now in this country.
It's
like, do
all
you think that like stripping government contracts from organizations doesn't impact those rights and issues?
Right. You want to have a partner who will say, I love the gays, I'm coming to Pride. And that does matter, but it doesn't matter to you if there isn't sufficient government funding to support like people who are marginalized in material ways.
I mean, Sara did say that she sort of had this political awakening around, I think, 2016 and then in real earnest around 2020. And so it does just feel like a person who is still working through their politics and their political awakening. And she has like this basis of values. And I do sort of believe that she is going to eventually realize that this stance doesn't make sense, especially because her votes do not like. Well, she's voting progressively, clearly.
I would rather have gay rights than pay fewer taxes, but wouldn't it be nice if I could pay no taxes?
Yeah.
And also there would be equality everywhere? Sara, that's not how any of this works, okay? Like, grow up.
Right.
But Kelsey and Lisa ultimately seem to like Ben.
They're like, sure, he's nice. But their concern is just like, you aren't ready to get married because there's clearly a bunch of conversations that you still need to dig deeper into.
Yeah.
And they also say, like, Sara, this setting, it's not quite real.
Yeah. And I think especially with someone like Ben, it's not real, to be honest.
Well, that's the thing.
As the series goes on, you see with Ben and Devin how they kind of like play dead during these tough moments, but you also see how Ben is like desperate to kind of like carry this relationship on and really wants to say the right things.
And that's, I understand, and that can be a lovely instinct, right? You don't want to upset your partner. But also sometimes saying the quote unquote right things is not an accurate depiction of how you actually feel and how your actions, like what your actions will look like down the road.
Who's the Ben who's going to show up when she's Mrs. Mazanga, as he keeps saying? It's like, finally, she's going to be Mrs. Mazanga. And I get to look at her and say, that's my wife, Mrs. Mazanga. Okay.
Oh, God.
What's your relationship going to be with
changing their last name on this season?
He's really obsessed with it. And I don't know what his relationship is really going to look like with her once he's kind of locked her
I feel
in.
like he is performing his best behavior, which, look, is often why people date for a few years before they really make a decision. Because at the beginning of dating, you are like I forget, people say like you're sending your representative in that first year.
Right.
Like everyone is. I get it. You want to put your best foot forward. But when you're entering a marriage with someone, you probably want to be like real sure about some things. And I think that it's clear that Sara still has questions. I mean, there are some of these couples like Taylor and Daniel, I'm like, they don't have those outstanding questions.
Yeah, I think if you have these questions that have been resolved with, well, I'm going to work on that and show you over time how I'm changing and evolving. Okay, we'd better keep dating until I see that happen. So they have a pod squad mixer. Of course, they got to get the whole gang together. And they go night snow tubing at venue. I think it's Buck Hill in Minneapolis.
This looked really fun, honestly. It's adorable. This is like all the engaged gang. They're like all snow tubing on like connected tubes. It's very cute. And then they go to get drinks, and the wider pod squad comes to meet them. Of course, Lauren comes first, so we can see her be sort of swept up into the arms of the other women. And then some of the other featured pod squad players arrive.
Yeah.
And we get a handful of chats. And as you pointed out, most of the drama teasers are like nothing. And the actual drama was not quite teased.
Yeah, it's not what I expected. So it was revealing. So Devin and Brittany do chat, as was teased. It is not at all a situation where Virginia is jealous, or it seems like they might actually have a vibe.
Zero.
Mostly, Brittany wants to express that she thinks Devin looks like a baby.
Correct.
And that she thinks he was immature and unsupportive when she shared her sexuality.
Correct. I am so glad that Brittany realized Devin was a bad match for her in that moment and immediately exited stage left.
She's very decisive.
It feels like this is a good time to bring up Storytime with Ricky broke the news that Brittany actually did get engaged in the pods to someone else, a guy named Mo, and they opted not to go to Honduras and chose to get to know each other outside of the pods on their own terms. And then Brittany found out that this man, Mo is a black man, had never dated a black woman.
I think that's actually why they decided not to go to Honduras. She found out that he'd never dated a black woman, and she was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, maybe that's why they decided not to go to Honduras. But then I guess as they were exploring their relationship, he made a comment to her, allegedly, that was like, I just don't know if I'll ever be able to, quote unquote, get there with a black woman. And she was like, okay, we're done.
Right.
And also apparently he was sketchy and like production didn't like him. So that's why he was basically cut from the show.
I mean, it's just a bummer though, because, there was some chatter that he had said offensive things on camera. And so they were cutting out his time. I did wish that we had seen Brittany's love triangle.
Same.
Turn it into a love square. Like, I love when she was so decisive with Devin. That was such a great moment. I would have loved to see
her school
journey. Yeah.
this other man. I mean,
God, she deserves
I
so much
love
better.
Brittany. I think she deserves the world. She
If
just seems so wonderful.
If every woman were like Brittany, they would all waste so much less time on shitty men.
But then we wouldn't have a show, Claire.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe they don't want to. The show wants to punish her for cutting off their drama by accurately reading red flags and getting the fuck out immediately. Meg and Mason do show up together, as I think we're glimpsed in the trailer.
They've been hanging out.
Yeah, they've been kind of dating. Madison shows up with bright pink hair, which I love.
I love her.
She's a little eye-rolly about the Meg and Mason thing. She's like, his behavior is an ick. But her words about being a liar are not about Mason.
No.
So this brings us to the Alex situation.
Oh, I am so glad that we accurately read Alex for filth. Some people loved him.
Really?
I feel vindicated.
Yeah. I mean, he turned out, again, it's like once you sense some of these red flags, it's not turning around. Well, to be fair, I do like Daniel now. So
yeah, look, I really like Daniel. But Alex, here's the thing about Alex. He was giving a little bit, and I couldn't quite tell. He was giving a little bit. I was like bullied in high school. And what I have taken away from that is that I now deserve the perfect 10 woman.
Yeah, he's like
I'm entitled to that, and I'm a capital N nice guy.
I'm hot now, but I'm also nice because I was bullied.
Because I have trauma.
And I'm the good guy. It's finally my time. It's finally my turn. And he had doubts about Madison because she couldn't guarantee that she would never have a bad day or that they would never have miscommunications. So he dumped her.
It is his prerogative to think they're not a match. Okay.
Right.
Sure.
So she gets her phone back after the show, and apparently he immediately found her on social media and DM'd her, "Oh my fucking God." In other words,
what do you know? Now that he's seen how hot she is, he is really ready to give their relationship a try and is like begging her to meet him at the airport, to be with him, to date him. And like, she said that he just keeps commenting on her looks, which for anyone who's forgotten, Madison's whole thing was like, I'm going on this show because I don't want to be objectified or assumptions made about me.
Right.
Because of my looks.
Right. And suddenly she has this guy who dumped her all over her being like, you're so hot. Stay in LA. Let's make this work.
And she's like, you just told me that like we were incompatible fundamentally.
Right. And you told me you had no space for like my humanity. But now that you see that I'm hot, maybe you do have space for that. Yeah, it's gross. And it's funny because it's so similar actually to the way Meg and Mason got together, but with some key differences. Meg dumped Mason in the pods. She's like, I won't be able to get over the fact that it seems like I was second choice. She reached out to him on Instagram after the show and said, how are you doing? And he said, a lot worse now that I see that you're gorgeous. And I think that came off as charming, partly because Meg and Madison are different people, and partly because she dumped him.
Well, right. She dumped him. That's also the difference. Is like he said he fucked up already in the pods before.
And it's like a clever little line, right?
Yeah.
To just like dump someone and then the minute
like,
you see
oh my
they're
God,
hot,
you're hot,
you're like, oh my God, fuck. Oh shit, you're hot. Oh God, let's get back together. Like that is not charming. That's not
zero.
Cute. She also says that she asked him about Mason. Remember, one of the issues they had was that he was really defending Mason over her when she was upset about Mason's behavior. And she's like, oh, what do you think about Mason? Like, in all of this, like, you guys are so close. And he said, fuck Mason.
And she's like, oh, well, interesting, because that's literally the like opposite of the energy that you had in the pod. So she's like, Alex is not trustworthy. Alex is a liar. She also says that afterwards, because I guess they like kept in touch like on the phone, and Alex told her that Meg had messaged him and was saying things like, oh, Meg told me that I was actually her number one in the pods. Like, we did know that Alex and Meg had dated, but it seemed like it had petered out.
I mean, they all date, so it's like hard to tell if it doesn't make the edit at what point they dropped off. But Madison is telling this to Lauren. She's telling the whole saga to Lauren. And Lauren seems equally confused. She's like, was she even interested in him? I thought the whole thing was like Megan Mason.
And Madison seems to put this on Alex. She's like, I don't trust Alex. He's a huge liar. And he was trying to pit me against Meg.
Yeah.
She hates him, as she should. I was a little sad that we didn't get like a conversation between the two of them where she tells him off, but I am glad for her peace that perhaps she didn't have to speak to him.
Yeah. Like, I hope they're not talking on the phone anymore. I was like, why were you talking to him on the phone?
I know. I was like, Madison, this guy is a 0.
I'm so over the whole Alex thing.
Ugh.
So then we see some chats about the Lauren and Dave situation. So this
Molly,
is where we...
our girl. I fucking love Molly after this episode.
Molly comes in with her like curly red ponytail bouncing and is like, fighters assembled to protect Lauren. I'm
Molly
here reporting
is
for
a
duty.
Girl's girl. And I will say that I've seen some cute TikToks. It seems like Madison, Lauren, Molly, and Virginia and Brittany are all still very close and hang out a bunch. And I was like, oh, that's a cute girl group.
That is cute. I love that. I always love when they stay friends.
Me too.
So Molly chats with Lauren first to kind of catch up, and she doesn't know that Lauren and Dave have broken up yet, it seems like. And she's ready to just giggle like besties and swap gossip with Lauren. And she's like, first of all, thank you so much for being so nice to me when we were both dating Dave. You're the best. Also, when I was out and the pod squad kind of ran into Dave, I didn't say hi to him. I didn't even see him, but I heard that there was a girl all over him. To which my question is, was it his sister?
One can only assume.
We need more details.
I hope they ask about this at the reunion. I don't have a lot of faith in Nick and Vanessa, but...
And she does say, I didn't see it, but I did just want to give you a heads up that that's what I heard.
And at this point, Lauren is like, well, we're actually over. We broke up. And Molly is like, wait, what? And Lauren explains the series of events that led to the breakup. And Molly is like aghast. She's like, wait, what? Was he celibate until the pods? Like, is this man still a virgin? Oh, that makes so much sense. She's just like going after him. And she also says what I think we've all been thinking. Fuck his friends.
Fuck his friends.
I love Molly. I loved her in this moment. The fact that she did not even question Lauren for half a second. She was just like, wait, this is insane.
Yeah. I mean, she's saying what we're all thinking.
Exactly.
I think also Molly comes into this with the advantage of already having decided that Dave is disgusting.
Yeah.
I mean, first
she's
of all,
not sad. She's like, ugh.
Yeah. I mean, she's not, no part of her is like, but Dave is such a great guy. Like, let me hear his side of the story.
I wish we could have been together.
Right. She's like, oh, he's available now? No. She's like, first of all, I heard that he was with a girl when you guys were engaged. Gross. Also, I got back. I looked at his Instagram selfies. He's not that great. Like,
I got the ick.
I looked at his Instagram and I was like, you know what? I'm good.
Dead, deceased. I love you, Molly.
I think maybe this was a little soon for Lauren, who is like
Lauren's
grieving
still mourning
this man, and Molly's like, he sucked anyway and was disgusting.
But I do appreciate that energy. At this point, Dave rolls in late, and just gets the support from his bros as he tells them about how shitty he feels about the breakup, because he was trying really hard to make it not seem like it was his decision, but it came off that way anyway. Yeah, that's because you broke up with her, Dave.
You wanted to end it.
You did all of this.
You had issues that you were unwilling to do the work to resolve. You ended it. And
that's
now
it.
He tells on himself so much. He's on camera being like, I was trying to make it seem like it was her decision.
But I didn't
unfortunately,
succeed.
I didn't succeed at that. And it's clear that it was my decision, which wasn't what I wanted.
It's truly shocking.
He's coming on and like basically confessing to trying to manipulate the situation to seem like the victim.
He's just really, he, oh my God. Oh my God, Dave.
Oh my God, Dave.
And then Dave and Molly chat. And this was delicious.
He thinks it's going to go a different type of way.
He's like, oh, Molly, she's probably going to be so sad that we're not together. That is not the energy Molly brings.
Yeah. And he thinks she's going to be sort of a sympathetic shoulder. And he opens by telling her that post-breakup has been so weird because he's usually in the position where he fucked up and he feels guilty about something. And Molly kind of grins and is like, you're going to say she fucked up?
And Dave's like, oh, okay, the vibes are different than I thought.
He's backpedaling furiously. He's like, no, of course not. That's obviously not what I was saying.
And Molly is like not here to litigate their relationship at all. She is there to be an ally for Lauren. She's like, well, remember in the pods when you admitted that you have a history of pushing people away? Seems like you did that to Lauren.
Yeah, and he's like, no.
No,
I don't think so. And she's like,
definitely not.
Yeah, that seems like exactly what happened. You were trying to push her away so she would end things, which he just admitted to his bros 5 minutes ago. And she also asked him about the slut shaming stuff. She's like, well, when did you last have sex? And he can't remember, which I feel like I would remember even if it had been a while. I would maybe remember it even more if it had been a while. I used to always know exactly when the last time was.
Same. Even if it had been a while.
Yeah, because you're like, wow, I'm counting the months here. I'm counting the years.
Like, I didn't mean to become celibate, and yet here we are. But Molly rightly is like, why do you give a shit if she hooked up with someone before she met you?
You'll never guess. You'll never guess what the first words out of his mouth are.
My sister. I'm sorry, if someone asks you about sex and your response is my sister,
why is your partner's sex life before you important to you? Well, my sister. No, stop. No. Turn back.
Dial it back. Turn around. Do not pass go. Go straight to therapy.
You've gone wildly wrong somewhere way back and roll it all back. Why does it matter you to so much? And do not answer with reference to your sister this time, please.
But Dave cannot help it. He's like, my sister, it's really important she approves of what I do. She was not a fan of me doing this at all. I finally got her to come around and say, you can go. Not that she controls my life. She does, Dave. But she was not okay with me getting engaged. But in the pods, I was like, fuck it. It's my life. Like, yeah, David, it is.
It quite literally is. It's interesting to see him clock for a second that the way that he talks about his sister makes it sound like she controls his life.
Yeah, I'm like, well, you just said you had to get her permission. So
she finally said that I could go. But she was not okay with me getting engaged.
33.
But then she wasn't there to oversee me. And I was like, fuck it. You know what? Boss isn't here. Free ice cream cones for everyone who comes in.
My sex boss, my sister isn't here.
My sex boss isn't here today. My sex boss is out sick, so hell yeah, I'm getting engaged. It's going to be awkward when she comes back and finds out what I did while she was on leave.
Yeah, my sex boss is going to put me straight into timeout.
That's why she wouldn't let him go, because like without the sex boss there, how was he going to be told to stay in line? He's going to go crazy without constant management. He's going to make wild decisions.
Oh, and Molly is just like not buying this. She's like, I mean, I don't know.
Like what is he talking about? Does he think that this is how you talk to women? Like, I notice he doesn't bring up his sister so much with his male friends.
No, only to the women who are like the disgusted.
Women, he's like, I think that the women will love that I listen to my sister so much that she basically has to give a sign off on my dating decisions.
It's so bizarre. And Molly is like, if you say you're ready to be married, then why wouldn't you defend the person you're engaged to or that you're seeing to your friends and family? She's like, it's simple. He's like, are you in love with Lauren? And he's like, I am, but it's not that easy. And she's like, what are you talking about? Of course it is. Get her on a FaceTime.
Off camera, get her on a FaceTime.
Molly
make it happen.
Him on this complete bullshit. I was so proud of her.
Yeah. I mean, he could have left the letter with his sister on her counter. He could have called her and been like, you know what? Cameras aren't here, but Lauren is. I would really love for you guys to just meet.
He could have done anything. He did nothing. He
Anything.
didn't try. His friends were ready to be on camera, and he sent them away.
Because he didn't feel like it.
Yeah,
night.
like it's just like he didn't do shit. And after this, Dave is like defeated. This is such a wild about face. Like I was like, Dave, you need help.
He's
also,
Dave.
I will say, extremely drunk. He is basically slurring at this point.
This is what happens when you have like 3 drinks and then someone shames you for your behavior one time. Suddenly,
yeah, and he's sort of like, oh wait, I guess that's all correct.
Do you think that Molly became like his surrogate sister? Like Sex Boss wasn't nearby?
Yeah,
here's a new Sex Boss.
This cool woman is yelling at me, and maybe she's correct.
It's unfortunate that he can't let Lauren be the Sex Boss.
No,
there always has to be
allowed.
Another
outside sex boss
who is like a peer type woman who loves to boss him around is not his partner.
Yeah, he's just like, oh, I love Lauren.
Yeah,
and I want to hold her, and I want to go home with her, and I want to be with her, but it's too late. I always want what I can't have. I'm like, it's incredible how he accurately diagnoses himself over and over again once he gets like one drink and a tiny bit of shame in him.
Yeah, and then whenever he's with a woman, he goes back to trying to manipulate and
he's like, wait, it's actually your fault.
So he goes right to Lauren, having been criticized by one person for what he did. He goes right to Lauren to try to get her back. And he's like, it's not you. It's not your fault. It was my ego that got in the way of really seeing what we had. And I'm sorry. It's like, I wanted to, text you when I got home and your stuff was gone. It made me really sad. And she's like, yeah, it was sad to move all of my stuff out.
And she's like, and guess what? You actually didn't text me. And he's like, well, you didn't text me.
What is wrong with him? Did he black out mid-conversation? Did he forget everything they were discussing?
You broke up with her. Why would she text you to comfort you?
He has no like object permanence for issues in the relationship unless it's her boning someone else. Like he legitimately is having this whole conversation to be like, I'm sorry. I'm the one who fucked up. None of this is on you. And then the minute she's like, yeah, and you didn't text me. He's like, neither did you. You didn't text me. I'm the aggrieved one. You didn't text me. It's like, no context. Like you're talking about how you hurt her and pushed her away. Why would she text you?
Again, and my eyes starting to twitch.
And Lauren has to say, no, that's not fair. I'm the one who's been doing all the work. I've been working so hard. I got nothing from you. You pushed me away. You gave nothing back. You broke up with me. Why would I reach out to you? And he's like, oh, yeah. No, you're right.
That's a good point.
Sorry, my knee-jerk response to just like blame a woman for not doing the thing that I also didn't do just won out in that moment, I guess.
Oh my God. And
Dave
is just like back to being sad. And he's like, I can't picture anyone better than you. You should have been my number one priority. That's what love is.
And it is. And that's why we know he loves his sister, who is his number one priority.
And basically he's like, oh, I just was too scared of how much I love you.
Yeah.
And you can tell that Lauren is like struggling because she knows that this guy has fucked her over. But also she's one day out of a breakup with someone she wanted to be with. Like I really, really, really felt for her in this. Like it is so like this is the kind of thing that when someone dumps you, you like dream of them coming back and saying to you.
Yeah. And some of us have been through it and it feels really good.
Yes.
And then what do you know? The relationship ends for like the same reason.
Yeah. Then the relationship does end, but like it feels so amazing when it happens. So I felt so much empathy for Lauren. I was like, if it was me, I probably wouldn't be strong enough to like walk away. I'd be like, oh my God, he's saying it. He's saying the thing.
I mean, I got caught in this cycle and so did Greg in a previous relationship. And so when we started dating, he was like, if we break up, it's over because we're not doing that again. And that, I get that now that I'm older. I'm like, you see these patterns where like you break up and then you're like, oh, I miss you. Like, we should just get back together. That was easier when we were together.
And then you're like,
and then
oh,
the
the
issue
issues
comes
actually
up
haven't been
again.
resolved at all. Like,
Right.
what would have to happen is for Dave to come to her with like, in a sober moment, like with saying like, I have spoken to my family and friends. They are ready to meet you. I believe you. I believe your account of things. I am so sorry trust was breached. You have no obligation to meet these people or come back to me. But this is what I'm doing without you asking.
Right.
Instead, he's just like, I'm sad. I'm sad.
Yeah. And within this very conversation, we see that he lacks the focus, the object permanence, the consistency to be able to maintain that position, that accountability. The minute that he feels threatened, he falls right back on blaming her.
Exactly.
Even within this conversation, which doesn't give a lot of hope.
No. And I was really proud of Lauren because she does mostly stand her ground. And she's basically like, I just think we're past that point. But the camera does linger on them holding hands and smiling, which sort of suggests that maybe the window is still open.
Yeah.
I don't think that they're together. And I
certainly hope not.
I really hope they're not together right now. But that's sort of where we end their storyline.
Lauren needs a better picker. Like the guy that she was seeing before
seems like a real piece of shit.
I mean, props to her for realizing that she shouldn't marry him, but he seems like real garbage. Dave is the worst. Like, she seems so sweet and loving.
I know. I really
so
like
better.
Lauren, and I want better for her. And I hope that a year out, she sees that.
Yeah.
So post mixer, we get the wedding dress and suit shopping. It's completely uneventful. Nick and Vanessa are like, remember us? We're here. We have a purpose. And we see the dresses and the suits.
Yeah, the ladies.
They look good.
Pick out beautiful dresses that were all very suited to them. I thought.
Yes.
I really loved Monica has this like simple sort of sculptural dress with a high slit, and Virginia has this really shimmery gown. I think those were
really
my favorites.
pretty. All the dresses suited them. The men look fine. I thought Daniel was the only one who actually looked good, and he picks out a tux.
It's a
looks
classic
very
tux.
sharp.
It actually fits. I think these men were all throwing on like poorly fitted jackets and pants in like non-traditional colors.
Ben is wearing like a khaki suit that like washes him out. Yeah. Devin, for some reason, is like, I'm going with a black suit and like red accents. It's not good.
Maybe it's wedding colors. I don't know.
I don't care. I hated it.
I do like non-traditional suits, but like
they have to be tailored to that person and their color palette and like not look clowny.
Yeah, it really looks like they just all threw on the first ill-fitting suit that they saw when they walked in the door.
Except for Daniel. So speaking of Daniel and Taylor, they continued to just be like in their own Hallmark movie while everyone else is falling apart. They are just like having a great fucking time. They're planning their Christmas cards already, even though it's March, because of course, as we know from the pods, this is a thing that Daniel does every year, and he's just like so excited to not be doing it alone.
Yeah, so this is actually not their Christmas card because he won't let her in on his planning secrets until they get married. But they are apparently having a Christmas themed wedding of some kind because
like that's their favors are going to be Christmas themed because it's a thing that they both love. So they're doing like Christmas ornaments with cute photos of them inside. And I'm like, this is the kind of thing that you do when you think you're actually going to get married.
Right. They do like an elaborate Christmas photo shoot to get the photos for these Christmas ornaments. And so their guests will always have a Christmas ornament of Taylor in a green velvet gown.
I think that's her reveal gown too.
She looks gorgeous in it.
So they also have a final date, which is very cute. Ice skating and eating dinner on center ice. And of course, this being a Minnesota season, they are both pretty good skaters. Taylor is a very good skater. And
the way that they were talking about it made it sound like she had played hockey or skated
done
in
figure
some
skating. Yeah, because she knows like the rules of how to skate backwards and stuff.
Yeah, she was like putting on a clinic.
Yeah.
And then they have dinner and it's all good. It's all good vibes. He says seeing her in her wedding gown will be the peak of his life. and that there's no pause for him. He can't
Yeah,
see
because
himself
she's sort
going
of
back to
like,
being
are you going to
single.
feel sad that you haven't been, like able to date around enough? And he's like, no,
Yeah.
you are like a great match for me. And Taylor looks at him and is just like, a moment between us that you mentioned earlier where you looked at me and you just were falling more and more in love. That's this moment for me.
They're so happy.
Like, they're
I
so
can't
happy.
believe
They're our
they're the
only
ones who
hope.
are so happy. But yeah,
I know, it's wild, but they should get married. They
And
seem great.
the less that Daniel talks about Christmas cards and the mother of his children, the more I like him.
I know.
So,
And he hasn't really been doing that. Like, yes, they did that photo shoot, but their conversations are not about the mother of his children.
thank God.
Thank God. Devin and Virginia.
Devin and Virginia, they have to revisit that whole prenup conversation because they actually need to put together a prenup. And so she prints one out. She gives it to Devin, and he looks very silent and uncomfortable and kind of like carefully picks it up and puts it back down. And he's like, I need to look at this and share it with an attorney. And she's like,
Which,
yeah,
like,
of course.
yes, you do.
But he's clearly feeling just very anxious about what people are going to say, especially his family. And he's like, what will we say when people ask, why do you need a prenup if you aren't planning to get divorced? Which is literally something that his family keeps asking him.
Yes. Which she's like confused. And then he's like, well, my family did literally say this. And she's sort of like, oh, okay. Well, I see this as basically an insurance policy if the worst possible thing happens.
I think that they're just coming from different places on this because I think for most of us, divorce is something that you don't believe will happen. You don't want it to happen, but you see it as an option in the case of the worst case scenario.
Right.
And if that does happen, you want there to be
safeguards for both of you.
But some people, and I think his parents are in this category, really think of it as not an option in the sense of like, I don't care if there's like abuse or abandonment, you are married to that person forever.
Right. It is
and
a
there's
sin.
no getting out. Right. I knew people like this growing up, like the Catholic Church is very weird about divorce, who just like their husband like left them and they never dated again because they were still married. Like their husband left them and married someone else. And they were like, according to God, I'm married. There are people who genuinely see divorce that way. And so I don't think that there's any way to be like, this is like health insurance. Like you don't think that you're going to get in a car crash. But if you do, don't you want the insurance to just like make it less horrible when that horrible thing happens? They're like, that will never happen. You will simply choose to not have it happen ever.
Right. But it seems like his family comes around. Like he says that he shows the prenup to the family attorney, to his mother. And like once his mom actually reads it, she's like, oh, this actually seems fine. And so Devin seems actually pretty relaxed about it. They both sign it.
I do think sometimes like the prenup thing, people think it's one thing. And actually you look at it and you're like, oh, this is sort of just how I thought divorce worked. But in actuality, it can get a lot more messy if we don't lay it out.
This is just laying out like, there's still right. It doesn't mean that you like say there is no such thing as shared marital property that you are when you earn things together like that. Like
I think a lot of people assume that if you got divorced, you would leave with what you came in with and split the marital property. But it can get messier if you don't set that down.
Exactly. So everyone's fine with it. This gets resolved fairly easily. And they have a final date where they take a horse and carriage ride with their gold goblets and have a tasting menu.
I feel like they have to keep the gold goblets like in their pockets or purses at all times.
Yes. Oh, at all times.
If they're ever sitting down.
Just like carries them around to be like, oh, you forgot your gold goblet. Do you want a long stem or a short stem wine glass?
God.
Okay, we got you. And Virginia's like, do you have any concerns? Anything you want to bring up? And he's like, nope, all good.
He never does. Ladies, this is not a good sign.
It's a bad sign. Devin also is like, I have a token of appreciation for you. It's a gold basketball.
And a jersey. And they both say Team Buckley because, of course, she is changing her name. None of the women seem to have really questioned this. Even Monica says she never meant to, but she likes Joey's last name. So now she's
like,
planning
okay, I
to.
guess you have a reason. But the dynamic between just Devin and Virginia just continues to feel off. It feels like there's always something lingering under the surface that one or both of them isn't saying, especially Devin. They don't feel particularly comfortable like with each other. They don't seem to want to touch each other. I don't see it.
And it is very unsettling because you're watching them and it feels like neither of them wants to get married. It feels like neither of them is that into the other one, but they keep insisting that they do and they are with their
Right.
words. There's a disconnect.
Huge disconnect.
And some of it I'm like, is this partly just how Virginia talks?
Is it the
And
edit? Like it's hard to
yeah.
know because we're not with these people. But from what we're seeing, it does feel like there's something off.
Yeah.
Joey and Monica, things between them are still going like pretty well, but we start to get these hints that Joey isn't necessarily giving Monica the affirmation that she needs and that Joey isn't sure about marrying her.
Yeah. Apparently, like, he feels like he can't decide for sure until the day of the wedding because he can't plan more than 24 hours in advance. Does he understand that he's going to have to plan their whole life together
No,
as soon as he
Claire.
says yes? Like, you're going to have to very suddenly have the ability to plan more than 24 hours in advance.
No, he will take it day by day. And he means that literally.
This is a man who does not want to get married.
Yeah, I just don't think that
To
he
anyone.
feels sure. And I don't think he's sure about her.
Yeah.
Maybe he's open to dating her. I don't think he's sure about her yet, which is also, again, fair. They've not known each other that long. But it's sad because you can tell that Monica is just in it.
Yeah.
She is trying so hard. She is like really stood up to him, to her family. She's making great effort. She's being very understanding of the fact that he's not in a place to give her the affirmation that she wants and needs. She's like, Joey's not saying it's you, let's do this, but my feelings have grown for him. And I hope he feels the same way.
Yeah. They're having their final date at this conservatory that she loves. And she brings up to him that sometimes she does see the other couples and how physically affectionate they are. And she compares their relationship and it makes her wonder whether he's really into her. And he says, I tried to work to improve that. Did you notice that?
She's like, oh, yeah, I did.
She's like, 100%. I was really kind of annoyed by his response, to be honest.
I know. I also, to me, how this read was like, some people are not super touchy-feely people. My partner is not. But if you feel secure in the relationship and you're getting affirmation in other ways, you're not going to be constantly looking at other couples being like, is this an indication that I am loved less?
Right.
Like, to me, that is less about the physical affection and more about the fact that she is not getting that feeling of safety and security from Joey at all.
Right. Well, we know he's also not saying
Well, exactly.
the things that would make her feel
Like, he's
better.
not committing to her in the way that she needs, and he's not touchy-feely, and it's just, it's all the things. She doesn't feel safe in the relationship.
And even in this moment, when she brings it up, he seems more annoyed that
He's like,
she's
I
bringing it
tried.
up when he tried. And she's so, oh no, of course, I noticed, absolutely, that was so great. And he tells her that he has, quote, a lot of love for her.
This is just a man who's going to say no at the altar.
I mean, that to me was alarming. Did we miss or did they cut him saying that he loved her? Because I have a lot of love for you is something that you say like after a breakup.
Yeah, like I have respect for you.
Yeah, we're good. I will always have a lot of love for you. It didn't work out between us. Like I don't think I've ever once told Greg that I have a lot of love for him.
Zero. I've never told a romantic partner that I'm with. I mean, yeah, it's not looking good.
It's crazy. They were like our golden couple and they're like
I
withering
know,
on
but
the
then
vine.
Taylor and Daniel are the golden couple. They just did they had to like tease us because they had to do that cliffhanger in the first batch.
Yeah, they threw us off the scent.
They end this date laughing uproariously, but I just am increasingly thinking that it's not going to end well.
I think that like he feels that she really sees and appreciates how deep he is, and it's not just goofiness, but actually he started to seem kind of uncomfortable with the deeper conversations that they have about their relationship, and he's more comfortable when she's saying like, I love all your facets, and he can be like, oh, I've never heard someone say facets so many times, and they're laughing. Like that's the part where he really seems like he's in the relationship, and whenever she wants to get more serious, he's like, leave me alone.
I just think he's getting freaked out now that the wedding is actually going to be a thing.
Yeah.
This brings us back to Ben and Sara. And Sara is going to church with Ben and his friend Abe. And Sara looks like she is truly dissociating the entire time.
This was cinema. Like the camera work that they did, the audio, which was not at all, the tension was not attenuated by a soundtrack. It's just the sound of the cool guy preacher in the pulpit and the sound of Sara and Ben fidgeting wildly the whole time.
I mean, Ben is just like, yeah, ha ha ha. He's loving it. He's feeling it. He's feeling the spirit. Sara is like fidgeting and grabbing things from her purse and like glazed over and has her arms crossed. I mean, she is so uncomfortable.
Her face is truly stony. And Ben is laughing at like the dumbest shit that this preacher, he's like, oh, my wife always wants me to assemble things. Like she'd want that in our marriage contract. And Ben is like, ha, 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 ha. And Sara looks like dead inside.
Oh yeah. She is on another planet. Like she's trying to separate from her body.
And the camera just like lingers on this for a long time so that you can really feel how uncomfortable this is. And afterwards she tells the camera that she didn't really feel the service. She didn't like it. Yeah. No,
you don't say.
Shit. You're such a good actress, Sara. I couldn't tell.
We also then see their final date before the wedding. They are in like a makeshift bubble hotel room under the stars doing some glamping.
They're glamping.
And Ben is just like, I am so sure. And it seems like Sara is less sure.
Yeah, Sara has concerns. I know that I have like a big ick for Ben because of the stuff we've heard rumored and because of the stuff he has said about politics. And so maybe this is unfair. But to me, it seems like Ben feels like he has sort of like neatly navigated past the obstacles and now he can kind of like chill.
Cruise on in.
He played everything right. And Sara is looking at him like, am I really going to marry this person?
I know. I know.
She still has all these doubts about values that she probably should have maybe listened closer to in the pods, but she wanted to give it some space and time to play out, and it hasn't made her feel better. She looked into it a little further after they went to church by finding a service online. It's one of these churches that also like does video services that you can watch online. And she's like, so I listened to one of the services the other day from your church where the pastor was talking about sexual and gender identity. And they did say that they are like welcoming of LGBTQ people, but their views on the issue are still very traditional. And she explains that in the sermon, the pastor like encouraged parents to not support a child who wants to transition because desires are different than actions. And sometimes the loving thing to do is not to affirm your child's identity, but to sort of persuade them that they're like fine the way they are and like God made you perfect. And she's like, I don't agree with that. If we had a child who was transgender, I don't think that that's a loving thing to do, to tell them that they aren't who they believe they are.
And Ben's like, yeah, same. I don't agree either.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. But there's no heat behind it. It doesn't really seem like he gives a fuck, to be honest.
No, he's just like, oh, yeah, if you say so. Yeah, I guess I don't agree with that. And he sort of plays dumb about the church's stance. He's like, oh, I mean, I always thought the church, like my church was pretty open, but it's hard to Google that stuff. You can't just Google it.
I'm sorry, dude, do you go to this church or not? Can you go up to the pastor? Like, is he in a
Sara's
bubble?
like, but you've gone there for years and they clearly talk about these issues. So like, how are you unaware of their stance?
I mean, I think that the answer is probably that he was unaware because he did not care. Like when they talked
I don't think
about
he pays
this,
attention.
When they talked about this, he probably did not have any sort of reaction of shock or horror. And so it wasn't memorable to him.
Yeah. I agree. I think he truly just like didn't register it.
And he instead is focused on the church's, as he puts it, good, wholesome messaging that everyone can get something from.
Yeah, like don't respect your child's identity and instead encourage them to suffer. Yeah, I love that.
And he's like, oh, they probably don't talk about it much because they want people to feel welcome. Oh, good. So they're like, they're
they want
trying to hide
people.
that.
Yeah, they're
let's
trying to hide
that.
that they're hateful.
Then that's what you want, is to not know until you find yourself in a situation where your child is going through this and you go to your very welcoming pastor for counseling and like the mask fully comes off and he's like, send your child to conversion camp. That's the loving thing to do. And you're like, oh, shit.
It's just so clear that Sara is never going to feel at home in this community. And like also clear that Ben doesn't have an urge to leave this church community.
Yeah. He's doing the playing dead thing where he just like, he doesn't react with any real emotion.
I guess I agree with you.
Yeah, he agrees with her, but there's no sense of authenticity behind it. He is like yesing her right to the altar. He doesn't care, but he's not going to disagree with her. He's just like, no, I agree. Absolutely.
And Sarah's like,
Ben.
No, I don't think he cares. Sarah's like, you know, I would be open to going to this church again for a holiday, like with your family, but I'm not going to invest in it. And I would be interested in finding like a new place that is genuinely welcoming and more in line with my values. But at the same time, she's like, genuinely, I am just iffy about going to church at all. Like she doesn't want to go to church, which is fine. And Ben does. Like they're not a match.
Yeah. She's like, I want to bring you to Pride. And he's like, no, I would love to go to Pride. Like, I believe in diversity. Absolutely. That's so important.
Beautiful.
It's beautiful. But then he also says, seemingly in reference to her issues with the church and their position.
Yeah.
He says, it's not my place to tell people whether they're right or wrong because I don't know. And Sarah's like, what do you mean by that? And he says, I don't know.
Ben.
He doesn't know.
No, actually having values and holding them means that you can articulate when you believe someone is doing something that is fundamentally wrong and flies in the face of those values.
Yeah. I just can't imagine going through with this, holding the values that she claims to hold.
She's not going to marry him.
Living in this moment where there are like very active and aggressive steps being taken at a national level to strip rights away from queer people. Like,
yeah, I know.
He thinks that really he can convince her that it's immaterial if he goes to this church and he's just like, I'm not going to tell them they're wrong.
To be honest, I'm seeing Sarah's reactions and I'm just like, Sarah's not going to marry this man. She does have feelings for him. Mm-hmm. She wants him to be better. I don't think she's going to have enough clarity to marry him or clarity in the direction that she wants.
This is definitely giving her a lot of pause again, but like she was given a lot of pause in the pods and then she got engaged to him. So I'm a little nervous because I see her face and she's like not liking these answers. These are not good answers. She's not satisfied, but she's also saying Ben is home to me. Like I feel so loved and so good when I'm with him. Like he is the person that like gives me all of that. Are those things, how's it going to shake out when she tries to weigh those things? It shook out a certain way in the pods that I honestly didn't expect. I thought that was going to be the end of their relationship and it wasn't.
I know. Yeah.
And she says like, I do feel like I've gotten like clarity on where he stands on these things. And I'm like, have you? Like,
I think she's also trying to convince herself because there are like great pieces of Ben. You know, I think he does genuinely make her feel wanted and seen and like respected.
Yeah. And they have fun together.
And they have a lot of fun together and she's attracted to him, right? Like there are these pieces in which she feels deeply connected to him. And at the same time, there are things that are being papered over.
Right. And she's saying like, oh, well, I always thought that my person would be completely aligned with me on everything and that's not realistic. And that's absolutely true. You just have to kind of decide which things you're willing to not be fully aligned on in a marriage. She asks if there's anything he wants to ask or put on the table before their wedding. And he's like, no, I had a really long day at work. So, yeah, I can't think of anything. Cool. We're just getting married. Like, that's not... We'll put all those issues on hold until after the wedding because you're tired.
Work is hard. I'm tired. Don't get married to him, Sara. So we head right into the Bachelor and Bachelorette parties. The men have theirs at the Vikings training facility, and they do some football things. And
Yeah.
the women dress up as old ladies and go to the Mall of America. I, as a
Sure.
person, as a person who grew up going to Minneapolis to visit my family, I have a lot of family in Minneapolis. I was delighted to see them at Camp Snoopy and at the Mall of America because, like, it is true that there is like a childlike fantasy of like being in the Mall of America by yourself.
That was cool. Yeah.
It's cool. It's actually cool because there is a full amusement park in
Yeah.
the Mall of America. So like they are riding like roller coasters. They're just like running around this massive structure.
Yeah.
I was like, this is actually a cool thing.
It was a good vibe. It was not like being in the empty mall
No,
with
on The
Branch and
Bachelor.
Alex. It felt much more like magical and
Yeah,
the mood was right.
And it was also a group of them. It wasn't just like two people.
Right.
It was like it was a girl trip and they were like riding roller coasters. It looked really fun.
And wearing wigs, which I was like, I would not want to be wearing a cheap wig for my whole bachelorette party, but they're having fun with it.
They're having a lot of fun.
The
But yeah,
men
nothing of
all-
interest really
Yeah.
happens.
The men all miss their place kicks, which I enjoyed.
Does Ben get his? Ben might.
I had the
Maybe
impression
not.
that they
Maybe they all did.
all missed them.
Yeah.
Listen, it's hard. It's hard to do those kicks.
Yeah.
But yeah,
apparently being a professional football player is difficult.
Yeah, but nothing of interest happens. Yeah, it's just a good night for everyone. And the episode ends with Ben and Sarah's wedding day. And at first, they both seem really giddy, really excited to get married. Ben is so excited to be the Mazangas and to call her Mrs. Mazanga and to be like, "You're my wife."
I do think that is what Ben is excited about having a wife for.
Yeah. No, he's truly excited to like check
Have
that
an
one
accessory.
off, have a wife. Sarah's sister and sister-in-law still seem not sold to me.
They're trying to be so supportive of Sarah.
Yeah. Who seems really giddy and excited.
And she is saying
ready.
things like, I can't wait for us to just be like one big happy family. I did feel that throughout this whole getting ready period, Sarah was like going back and forth about what she was going to do.
Kelsey looks at Lisa while they're getting ready. Like they're both done and they're sitting with their drinks while Sarah and her mom are still getting ready. And Kelsey mouths, "I think she's going to say yes." And not in a way where she seems excited about it.
No.
And Lisa responds, "Yeah, I think she should if that's what she really wants." And kind of expresses that she's worried that Sarah will have regrets because she's trying to please everyone. And it's just so palpable that Sarah is trying to like still sell Lisa and Kelsey on Ben and also her mom. And meanwhile, her mom has taken this opportunity to be like, "Ben goes to church and you should too because you're a heathen now, but church is so important and it's important to Ben, so you should really do it." And Sarah's like, no. Not for me.
I was very moved by Lisa wanting Sarah to do the thing that like she wants first and foremost, even if she has concerns.
Yeah, she really makes a point to tell Sarah, like, this is your decision to make for you. Don't worry too much about what the family wants or what anyone else wants.
And they all say, like, we will support you no matter what.
Yeah. But it seems clear to me that Sarah's mom is sort of excited that her daughter is getting married and will go to church again, but that her sister and Kelsey are not very happy that this is happening.
No, I think that they're genuinely concerned. But they also don't want to be the ones to, like, convince her to do something she doesn't want to do.
I was really struck by the fact that Sarah is still kind of trying to sell Ben's commitment to equality.
Yeah.
And the thing that actually seems to kind of strike her and make her look concerned is as she's talking through how they have this slight divergence and how much effort it's taken to like talk through it. Her mom says, well, everyone's entitled to their views and it's about accepting that. And Sarah seems to look at her sort of like, yeah, but I don't like want to accept that.
Right. And it's like, I guess you do have to accept that, but you don't have to accept that person as your life partner.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and so she, I feel, gets less and less sure that she's going to say yes as time goes on. That was the vibe I was getting. And by the time the altar approaches, Ben is like, I'm saying yes 100%. So they've left us with like no tension there. And Sara tells the camera that while her heart is sure about Ben, her mind has doubts and she's trying to tune into both. She looks kind of ill.
Yeah, she looks emotional. She looks sad. And that's not where I expected her to be at the start of the day when she seemed so
giddy.
And it seems like as she's thought things through,
I think it's dawning on her that like she wants to say yes because she cares about him, but there is something in her that is telling her this isn't right.
Yeah. So Ben's grandma and mom walk him down the aisle. His mom, like Sara, has long blonde hair, and she tells him that God's hand is on him. Sarah's stepdad, Andy, walks her down the aisle. We also met him a little bit during the getting ready time, and they seem to have a very sweet relationship as well. He gives her some advice, some marital advice. And then Sara and Ben like exchange their little pre-vow speeches. And they both seem pretty promising. I mean, Ben tells her that she's exceeded what he could have hoped for. And he says that he loves hearing that other people see it between them because he knows that it's real, which I thought was sort of like a weird thing to include in this particular thing. But
he's like, I feel affirmed by the masses.
And Sara says like, oh, you've made the impossible seem possible. You're literally everything I hoped and wanted for. But he's not. Like, that's the thing. He's not literally everything.
She's trying to talk herself into this until the very last moment. And Sara is asked to make her vow first. And she seems to hesitate a lot and looks very ill and stressed. Cliffhanger.
Yeah.
We see a preview, which of course I did my close reading of.
Yes.
We hear Nicole, Monica's sister, saying that she still thinks Joey and Monica's wedding is too soon. We get a voiceover of Monica saying that she would be heartbroken if she never got to see Joey again. There is a little clip that makes it seem like Devin is having doubts, but I frankly couldn't tell if it was cut in a way to make it seem like that or if he was actually expressing doubts. And I also noticed that he switched from a bright red tie to a bright red bow tie, which it does not improve the look. It does not improve the look for me. Most tellingly, though, we get a very quick shot of a woman walking out to a Suburban by herself. And it is definitely Sara because you can see her dress and her hair. Also, there is a split-second shot of Ben right after this shot appearing to cry or like put his head into his hands. So I think we can safely guess that Sara says no.
I think that it's very likely that Sara says no. I mean, that also was some of like the rumor going around about how the crying girl on TikTok drama affected the season. It doesn't ultimately seem, based on the edit, like that was a sticking point for their relationship.
I really don't. I think if that was the only thing, I really don't think that Sara would have said no. I think it is the values stuff, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I do wonder. I mean, I wonder why they include such revealing shots, but I guess they're like, oh, most people are not going to slow it down.
I mean, most people are not slowing it down and going frame for frame. Like literally, I watched it 5 times at normal speed and my brain didn't even register the shot of Ben. Like I only saw that when I was literally pausing every single frame.
Yeah.
So most people are just not being crazy.
All right. Well, if she finally said no to Ben, I'm very pleased with that outcome.
I'm proud of her and
yeah,
let's hope. So it's time for our friends to enemies scale. And as always, a little disclaimer. This is tongue-in-cheek. We do not know these people, and therefore, this is not that serious. That being said, Dave remains my number one severe enemy.
Yes, Dave is, I talk about him. Like, just like as my day is going along, I'll be like, Greg, do you know what that asshole did this week?
Exactly. Like, he is a person in my life.
Yeah.
I loathe him. I post about it on Instagram. I am in the DMs talking about Dave. Like, you know what? he's really burrowed into my soul, and
Yeah.
he's my enemy.
He's he does represent in many ways like the mirror image of the kind of person that you want to be with in this subtle way where it like really grinds your gears.
Yeah, it really he's really gotten under my skin. Also, definitely my enemy, Alex.
Alex is my enemy for sure. Ben, enemy. I'm so over this shit that's like, oh, we're going to talk about politics. My face is going to slightly glaze over and I'm going to give you the answer you want to hear, but with no like emotion or conviction behind it just to get through this moment.
I don't believe him.
And then I'm going to say, I wish we would talk less about this because it's distracting from us spending time thinking about the values where we do align.
Like how we're fiscally conservative.
Enemy. Devin is now my enemy. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I
know. You're right. Devin has moved into enemy territory. I can't abide it. I can't abide it. This man, I don't believe he believes in gay rights or abortion rights. The way that he responded to Brittany now is making a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Pretty telling. So yeah, Devin, I'm sorry. You've moved into enemy territory.
Yeah. Joey,
still a frenemy, I think, because he's not like doing anything horrible, but he annoys me. The way that he deals with Monica and her concerns or the ways in which she feels like she's not being fully affirmed in the relationship, it just reads a little dismissive to me.
Same. Madison, we have a little grouping of people that I think of as friend acquaintances. I don't know them that well still.
But like, I feel good. I mean, gun to my head, I feel good about them.
Gun to my head, I'm taking their side. Like,
yeah.
Madison, Meg, Mason, they've all said or done things where I'm like a little bit like, like even just the fact that Madison is so mad at both Mason and Alex, I'm like, I am curious to know more about their takes on all of this.
I'm just kind of like, I think we always said we didn't think Mason was bad. Like, he's always been our friend.
He like fucked up a little bit, but like, it's not like the end of the world.
I know. Like, to me, Alex, enemy, Mason, he's fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're all friend acquaintances. I do think Madison would be really fun to get a drink with and talk shit.
I actually want to know a lot more about what Madison thinks about everything.
Yeah, she's really entertaining, and I would love to see more of her. I would love to see. I think we could definitely end up seeing her on like Perfect Match.
Oh yeah, I would love that.
Yeah, Brittany is another one that I think we maybe could see. Like, we'll see, but it could be fun. And then we have like a bunch of friends: Monica, Daniel, Taylor, Sara, Virginia, Brittany, Lauren, Molly.
Yeah.
My friends.
There's
we have
like
a big group of friends. And there's 1.5 men in that group.
Yeah, it's not great for the men. There is like a scale. Like, I definitely think I would be really, really excited to hang out with like Brittany, Virginia, Molly, Lauren. And then we get down toward like Daniel, Taylor, and Sara, where I'm like, yeah, but like you seem nice, but I don't know if we actually would have that much in common.
Virginia, Brittany, Lauren, and Molly would be like our besties, but like Sara, Taylor, and Daniel and Monica are definitely our friends.
Yeah.
And I'm also like I'm rooting for all of them.
Exactly.
I'm really rooting for their happiness.
I'm rooting for them. I'm just not as eager to get a drink with them.
Exactly.
Should they get married scale
or date
out of 10? Should we rate Mason and Meg? Should they keep dating?
Sure.
I'm at like a 6 on that. Yeah.
Like 7. I'd say I'm a 7 on them continuing dating. Why not? Go thrive, you crazy kids.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Love that for you. Don't know too much about you, so we can't be at like a 10, but 7.
Alex and Madison.
0. 0. Like, Alex, literally stay the fuck away from her.
Stop accepting his phone calls, Madison.
And stop DMing her. Like, block.
Sara and Ben.
A 2. They shouldn't get married. They shouldn't.
Yeah.
And I don't think they will.
I'm at a 2.
Yeah, I think
them.
a 2 feels fair.
Monica and Joey.
I mean, again, we haven't seen anything like really bad happen between them, but there are just these question marks.
It feels like it's just petering for me.
Yeah, like maybe like a 6 or a 7.
I think I'm at a 6. I've just lost my enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like I was ever so excited about them, but I thought that they had
We're
what
really
it took.
well matched.
Yeah, and I've lost my enthusiasm for the concept
Same.
of them as a couple because
6
I
feels
don't
right.
think he has that much enthusiasm for it.
Exactly. Taylor and Daniel. I'm at a 10 for these kids. Like, I love them. I want them to be together. I think they're an incredible match. I think they respect each other. I think their families respect them and are making efforts. Like, get married.
Get married. Yeah, go for it, you crazy kids. I want to see those Christmas cards.
Same.
Virginia and Devin. I'm below a 5 at this point. I think I'm at like a 4.
3 between a 3 and a 4. I really just want Virginia to say no, to be honest.
Yeah, like the politics conversation was brutal. I think that she's someone who cares about those values. She expresses them also through her work,
I'm sorry,
which is
she
really
also is just like so brilliant, so successful, so beautiful, so patient. Like,
yeah, she deserves the world.
She can do. I'm sorry. It just, there's a better match out there for her.
And I think her work is like an expression of her values, which is so beautiful.
Yes,
she puts so much work
racial bias in healthcare.
Right. She's the best. And he is not even that interested with engaging with her on it. And then just the general vibe that I always have that they're not that into each other gives me huge pause.
I think like 3.5 feels right for them. Lauren and Dave.
0.
I think you know we're at a 0.
0. Get this man away from her.
If we can get into negatives, I'm at like below a 0.
I'm at like, should she block him on every platform so that he can never speak to her again? Salt the earth. Yes. He's going to try to weasel his way back in there. Do not give him a single opening.
Do not, Lauren. And I hope that we get some questions, some hard-hitting questions for him at the reunion. Come on, Nick and Vanessa. You could do it literally one time.
They can't.
They can't. On that note, that is it for this episode of Love to See It with Emma and Claire.
Love to See It is a presentation of Odyssey. The show is produced by us, Claire Fallon and Emma Gray. This episode was edited by Hannah Dickinson. Our theme music is by Tamar Haviv, and our art is by Aaron Nestor.
If you like our show, remember to follow us, rate us 5 stars, leave a review, spread the word to all of your Love is Blind fans and friends that we are covering Love is Blind on Love to See It.
Yes, we are. Write a long, beautiful letter and then actually give it to them so that they have the opportunity to read it. If you want to get in touch, you can email us at claireandemmapod@gmail.com.
You can also find us on TikTok at Love to See It Pod and on Instagram at Claire and Emma Pod. And you can find our newsletter Rich Text on Substack at claireandemma.substack.com. I'm also on Blue Sky at Emma Gray and on Instagram at Emma Lady Rose.
And I'm at Claire E. Fallon. Special thanks to the team at Odyssey: Eric Donnelly, Aaron Constantino, Matt Casey, Kate Rose, Moira Curran, Melissa Wester, Carly Snyder, and Hillary Shoup.
We'll be back next week with more on Grant Ellis's journey on The Bachelor and more Love is Blind.